Hello, friends of the free world. The subject I'm talking about is the absolute and complete decoupling from China. Absolute and complete decoupling from China. Now, only in recent years have Western countries begun to discover the evil nature of the Chinese Communist Party. For example, always not keeping promises, stealing Western high-tech achievements, carrying out ideological infiltration into the West, and political subversion of the West. In response, Western countries have taken countermeasures to decouple from China and to reduce risks. First, in 2020, former US President Donald Trump proposed decoupling from China. And then, in 2023, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen proposed a more flexible de-risking strategy, which was endorsed by the United States. The United States has recently restricted the export of chips and high-tech technologies to China. In Europe, decoupling means that they do not want their economy controlled by other countries. And Europe must maintain its own economic resilience. This means they may still do business with Communist China if there are no risks involved. In the United States, decoupling means they don't want high-tech technology and products to flow into the hands of Communist China. De-risking is not as comprehensive as decoupling. In fact, the West has not implemented decoupling, especially those entrepreneurs who are still very keen on doing business with China in an attempt to profit from it. In recent years, Western countries have discovered the communist regime's theft of technology and economic interests. This is only a very small part of Communist China's evil nature. We must realize that since Vladimir Lenin seized power in 1917, the Communist Party has been a congenitally evil group. Countries affected by communism always use totalitarianism as a means of governance, regard their citizens as slaves and objects of profit plunder, and spread their evil dogma around the world. In response to the Communist Party's broad-based aggressive strategy, de-risking will never work, I say. Europeans considered it very safe to interact with the communists within a risk-free range, but they didn't realize that they would be exposed to great risk once they had any contact with them. As for Trump's decoupling countermeasure, it should have been more effective. Unfortunately, the decoupling is not complete and absolute. Last month, US Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo said, if you redesign a chip around a particular cut line that enables China to do AI, I'm going to control it the very next day. This is the strongest and most effective measure we have seen so far. To decouple from the CCP, we must do the following. First, prohibit the export of any chips and high-tech technologies to communist countries. 2, do not purchase any rare earth metal and other raw materials from communist China. Reliance on communist countries for any supply is equal to handing over control to the enemy. In fact, democratic countries can mine rare metals on their own. Just because they are greedy for cheap, they voluntarily give up control of the supply chain to their enemies. 3, cut off all business ties with China. Any interaction with China is tantamount to providing a channel of nourishment for the enemy. It should be noted that doing business with China will never bring us any real profit. And even if we don't trade with China, we can still trade with other free countries or trade other goods. While we may temporarily lose some immediate benefits, compensation can be found in other areas. In this way, we can avoid being restricted by authoritarian regimes. Number 4, do not accept Chinese students in order to earn higher tuition fees. This will prevent them from conducting propaganda, sabotage, infiltration, and theft in Western countries. It can also prevent them from using what they have learned to do things that threaten our countries when they return home. Number 5, other measures such as selling land, food, scientific equipment, etc. to China, not allowing our nationals to use TikTok, not allowing Chinese companies to be listed in our country, and not allowing our people to travel to China to avoid being held hostage. These measures must be implemented effectively. Now, these are just a few examples of what can easily be implemented. There are still a lot more. However, even in the current unfavorable environment for foreign business operating in China, there are still a large number of people who are willing to stay in China and are unwilling to give up their investments. Examples are Tesla of the US and Volkswagen of Germany. These businessmen will bear the consequences themselves. In ancient China, if a villager was infected with the plague, all other villagers would be confined to the village and not allowed to leave it. This is the so-called to stop boiling by removing the fire from the bottom of the cooking vessel. That means this is the most effective way. The CCP's criminal behavior has brought disaster to the world. We should limit its activities within the country and prevent them from spreading to the free world. Suppose China was a virgin forest or a vast ocean of icebergs or a miasmatic barren land or a land of eternal fire, would you enter this place? If people of the free world never set foot in China, they can still live very well. Therefore, we should regard China as an epidemic area or a ghost land and never set foot there. Thank you for viewing.